All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Wednesday Night Reviews. I'm your host, Konrad, and joining me today on the right side of your screen is Riley Hamilton, and we're going to talk about their new book coming out, SPQR, which you could find on Kickstarter. I'm curious because most indie comic creators that I've talked to or run into or seen pretty well do everything they can in-house. Um, Obviously, with the main cover, do forgive me, by Ralph Barrientos, it's gorgeous. So I understand why you would have reached out. What led you to want to contact, frankly, kind of globally, these four different artists?
So actually, that's a very interesting story to that. One of the guys who I credit greatly for actually getting me to finally put this idea that I've had for a long time to actually get it down and actually make the book
Mm-hmm.
is a fellow Ottawan, a fellow Canadian indie comic creator by the name of Eric Bitmanis.
Right
And I
on.
know he was interviewed for, actually, I interviewed him for Sequential Magazine issue 3, I believe. So he had actually done a few books at that point. Hardwired was his sort of kickstarted comic. And he had told me, in that during that interview, the whole process he had gone through to sort of get his team together. And he actually went through a subreddit called Comic Book Collabs, which I would
Oh,
actually highly recommend because that's where I found the entire team, everybody that I worked with. So the artist, the penciler on the main part of the book, Samrat Das, who's a guy in India, who I actually give him credit for the paneling of the book. So
okay.
that I don't want to take much credit for that. That was 90% him on, leading you through the book. So I have to give credit where credit's due, and he certainly came through for me on that one.
Hmm.
And then the inker, uh, Roel Roque, in also in the Philippines, and Lucas Aparicio, the colorist in Argentina. I
Wow.
met each one of them through comic book collaborations, or comic book collabs is the name of the subreddit officially, but it's collaborations. And basically, all I did was I went out and I put out the elevator pitch of, hey, I'm creating this historical fiction comic about the Roman Empire, and I'm a writer. I'm looking for, inkers, colorists, artists. Is anybody remotely interested? And I was like, okay, we'll see. We'll put it out there. We'll see what happens. And within maybe 12 hours, I had gotten well over a dozen
Whoa.
requests from artists, and everyone going, hey, I'm an artist. I'm looking for, something to work on. Here's my portfolio. Here's a few samples of my work.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a great place to find people because it goes internationally, with the power of the internet. Anyone can see it anywhere, and so there's a huge pool of talent out there if you look sort of internationally. And yeah, I mean, there's people can post on their writers too. There are artists who are posting looking for writers. So it's not entirely just writers going, "Hey, I need people to work on my book because I can't draw." There's a lot of that, yes, but there's also artists going, hey, I'm an artist. Here's my portfolio. I'm looking for work. If there are any writers who are interested, you can also contact me. And it's a great site. And Eric, that's where he found his team for part of the members of his original team for Hardwired. And he met some of his closest comic book friends now. He has some friends in, Australia and the UK who he talks to regularly and bounces ideas off of that he met through comic book collaborations.
That is so cool.
And so that was his recommendation to me, was like, if you're looking for an artist, you're looking for people, try comic book collabs, because that's where he found his team. And he said, and it worked great. And I have to agree with him. It worked out fantastically in my case as well.
Holy cow, that's super cool. So you have, through the power of the internet, assembled an international team of creators to be able to put your book together. That is
Yeah.
so cool. So, just for the quick rundown, so basically for your Kickstarter, first tier, which is the tier that appears in every single Kickstarter I've ever seen, is the buck tier, where you get recognition, and you're gonna put the names of anyone who supports in the back of the book.
Yeah. So the last page of the book is actually going to be, this is sort of a neat idea that I had. One of the things that sort of, I don't want to say common throughout Roman history, but happened a number of times quite famously, was this idea of proscription. And basically
Okay.
what would happen would be the leader of the time, so either the dictator, the emperor, one of the consuls, whoever, would basically put a list of names up in the Roman Forum. So the Forum is sort of, the sort of Rome's sort of town square, if you will, where sort of the markets are, everyone congregates, and they would put this list up of, this is everybody who is now declared an enemy of Rome. This is, these are all the individuals who, if you see these people or hear of these people, it is your obligation to either arrest them or kill them.
Oh, jeez.
So, and I thought, obviously not the same sentiment as what we're going for, thanking people, but I thought that would be a cool thing to do, is sort of like have a final page where we have sort of a town crier going, hear ye, here are the, the
Wow.
enemies of Gaius Julius Caesar, and we'd have a list of everyone who supported the book. I thought it was a cool idea, and I was like, and it
Yes.
plays into the history and also is a unique way of showing off everyone who generously donated to help make the book a reality.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is such a cool idea. Because I've seen in YouTube videos, I've seen it done, and in comics I've seen it done, where they give a shout out and it's just like, thank you to our supporters, and it's a list, which is great. Like, yes, could thank everyone who helped you, like, obviously. But yeah, I think to take that extra step to really add in something unique that also ties in very well with your book is super cool. So one thing, so we've talked about this international team, which is wild. I do also see it as a little shout out, interior cover by Brennan Montgomery. So it's good to see you're still working with him a little bit. When it comes to the actual print of the book, because I'm very curious, where are you printing it, or who's going to make the physical copies?
The physical copies are actually going to be made by Copywell Printing in Toronto.
Oh,
So not local to Ottawa, but local to Canada, Ontario. And actually, both of the Eric's books were all printed by Copywell, and I have copies of his books, and they're beautiful, beautiful quality books. And I was like, "Who did you go with?" And he was like, "Oh, I went with Copywell." And actually, one of my other friends who just finished a Kickstarter about, I want to say September. I might be confusing dates. I probably am confusing times, but another Canadian comic creator, Fellhound. I don't know if you followed her on Twitter or not, but she's a cartoonist, and she just put out a one-shot comic called Commander Rao, which she just successfully kickstarted it, and she went through a different printer but had a whole ton of issues with them, and she was looking for someone else to print the book, and she was like, have you heard of, I'm going with Copywell, have you heard of them? And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of them, and their books are very good from what I've heard from Eric. And she got got copies. She said she got them quick and they were pristine. So
wow.
I've gotten good reviews from everybody who's used them.
Good to
So
hear.
I'm planning on sticking with them for my run of the books as well.
Okay. So basically, the Kickstarter is going to go live December 1st until end of December. So if you're out there watching and you want to, get Riley a really great Christmas gift, December 24th or 5th, just bomb a lot of support to his book. That'd be really cool. Do it earlier would be nice, but that'd be a cool idea. When do you suspect the first, obviously digital can go out instantaneously, basically, but
Yeah.
when will the rewards, the digital copies, physical copies, prints, posters, when do you suspect they might be sent out?
So that's going to be probably, I would say, end of January, beginning of February, because once the Kickstarter finishes at the end of the month, the end of December,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm going to have, once I see that, I'll be able to determine how much of whatever I need to print I need to print. So how many copies of the actual prints do I need versus how many copies of the book. Plus, once I get the orders in, then I actually have to receive them all and make sure
Yeah.
everything is in good order. And from there, I have to, package everything up for each individual request, for each individual order, and then get them mailed out. So, and again, in Canada, probably it'll definitely be quicker than, mailing them to the US or internationally, because especially with the pandemic and everything going on, that's slowing down a lot of deliveries. And also on top of that, there's going to be the Christmas rush as well, or the
Yeah.
aftermath of the Christmas rush. So my timing maybe could have been a little bit better, but the book was, the book gets finished when it gets finished. So, and I'm
Yeah,
more,
exactly.
for me, if it takes a little bit longer to get to them, but it's a better quality book because we didn't rush it, that's more important to me than, oh, we got it out before Christmas, but, we had to cut corners here and there. So optimistically, I would say end of January, beginning of February is the goal. But anything changes, if there are any disruptions or issues, there will be a notification sent out to anyone who backs the book to let them know that, hey, we're going to be delayed, and this is when we're projecting things will be in by.
Perfect. Because yeah, I mean, I've kicked back now a few projects, and one thing I've been impressed by is yeah the level of updates that I get. And if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, I've never done a Kickstarter myself. Kickstarter actually sort of probes and says, hey, you haven't given an update in a while. What's going on? So yeah,
Yes.
people will definitely be informed. And like you said, you're hoping to get this done actually rather quickly, from December 1st to shipped out, ideally end of January at least. So that's great. Is there anything else that you want people to know about the Kickstarter that we haven't covered as of yet?
The only thing I could think of is the one of the special the final tier of rewards, just as sort of a cute little aside, is that if you pledge the or donate to the top tier, you will actually have your likeness featured in the next book.
Wow.
So there are only a couple of spots because I can't have, hundreds of NPC characters. And we want to actually not just put your face on a character, but actually have your character have a somewhat of an important role to play in the story of issue 2. Maybe those could be snapped up right away. I don't know. It all depends on how the Kickstarter goes. But there is a tier where you can be drawn into the comic and, actually say some lines and interact with the main characters. So just sort of a fun little final note on the Kickstarter campaign.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I always like that stuff. I think that's like the coolest thing you can do as a creator is literally go, hey, one of our supporters, you're now in the book. Like that's so cool. So thank you for doing that. Is there anything else at the moment that you want people to know?
The only thing that I have sort of upcoming is for those of you who have seen the interview with Brendan Montgomery, I will actually be one of the contributors to the mega issue on the 80th anniversary of Canadian comics in March. So I will be working on an article slash sort of interview piece for that book or for that issue of the magazine. And the focus that I'm taking is on Indigenous Canadian creators. So we're going to have a look at a few Indigenous, cartoonists, creators who are sort of their stories about, not only them personally, but more broadly about how the Indigenous comics community is sort of coming about in Canada, which I think is going to be quite interesting. So stay tuned for that. Again, more details about, specifics about when that'll come out. You can see Brendan's interview. He knows way more about it than I do. That's probably about it. That'll be coming from me, apart from, this book and SPQR issue 2, if it happens, which I'm hoping it will, fingers crossed, won't be for a while, because like one issue takes about a year. This last issue, we started me and Samrat and everyone else started working on it. Yeah, it was November last year, I think, is when we started. So don't hold your breath, everybody, for issue 2. It won't be coming very, very soon. Hopefully it'll be coming, relatively expediently, but it'll be a little while. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I assume just like Brendan and just like many other people in your position, you have a full-time job, you have family and friends, you're also contributing to Sequential Magazine, and you're now indie publishing your own book through Kickstarter. A lot to take into account.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, hopefully the Kickstarter does so amazingly well that you end up being able to, quit your day job, just make comics? Because that would be the dream, right?
I don't know if that would be the dream for me, to be honest with you. I like it as a hobby. I feel like I'd be way too stressed if I had to make it my full time job and be economically dependent on making comics. I'm much more comfortable. I love the job I'm in now. It's wonderful. I talk to lots of great people every day.
Ah.
So I really like the work that I do in my day, in my sort of 9 to 5 regular day job. So I have no problems with doing comics completely as, a passion project, not something that I need to make my living or a ton of money off of. I love doing it as a passion project, being able to meet people, talk to people, have people, enjoy, hopefully enjoy what I write, what I work on. And all that sort of stuff is more important than, making a living out of comics. And I feel like I would enjoy it less if I knew that my livelihood
Mm.
was dependent on, getting this book out by Friday, sort of thing.
Yeah, you know what? That's an amazing amount of self-reflection. But I'm also glad that your focus as a creator is to make sure you can produce the best quality of a product you can. That's amazing. So I'm glad to hear it. Also, I'm glad to hear you like your day job, which is great. I do like to always ask, what is it currently that you're reading, whether it be comics or otherwise?
So right now, I've actually been doing a lot of what I like to call backtracking. So going
Okay.
through and reading old books or old books, old comics that people are always like, "Oh, this is great. Have you read this?" It's
Mm.
like, "No, I actually haven't read that." And they're like, "How could you not have read that before?" So I'm going through my backlog and getting everything sorted. So the big one right now is Sandman, Neil Gaiman's
Oh,
Sandman. So
yes.
since they did the re-release for the 30th anniversary a couple of years ago, I've been getting sort of all the volumes now that they're sort of back in shops.
Yeah.
Although, not really getting them in shops right now with everything going on, but I've been reading through that. I've also been doing my sort of annual read, well, not annual read, it's sort of a ritual read of oh my God, why am I blanking on the title?
What's it
Oh
about?
God,
What's the author?
this is killing me. It's I keep wanting to say Ex Machina, but it's not Ex Machina, by Brian K. Vaughan. But the one I'm thinking of is by Rex Mundi. That's it, by Arvid Nelson.
Okay. Is that one of those books where probably every other year or something you try and read it at least once?
Yeah, it's a great story. I describe it as the Da Vinci Code before the Da Vinci Code. So it was actually published before the Da Vinci Code came out, and it's an alternate history political thriller based on sort of the story, like similar themes to the Da Vinci Code. So the same sort of, you know, themes of, the Holy Grail and all that sort of stuff, except set in an alternate history, 1930s Europe, where the Vatican still like controls Europe. The church is still
Ah.
enormously influential, and it's a great read. So it combines my love of history, love of politics, and it's a murder mystery on top of all of those things. So it's
Love
a
it.
great book, and I always make a point to try and read it every year at some point.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad to hear. I know a few people that have an annual book that they like to read at least once a year. But yeah, I'm so glad, and I hope you continue to enjoy it as you read it more and more. So yeah, Riley, I wanted to say one. I hope for everyone watching out there, tune in, watch Kickstarter for SPQR December 1st. I want to say, Riley, thank you so much for taking the time to take about an hour out of your day and come on the show and chat comics with me. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with your Kickstarter campaign, and I can't wait to see it.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me on today. And I look forward to seeing what new creators and new books you actually interview and review going forward. It's been quite a fun time listening to all your interviews as well.
Thank you kindly. Well, thanks for everyone for tuning in. I do hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.